Hello, everyone. Today I'll be refuting the claim that foreign aid fails to benefit the poor. The advocates' supporting claims were that money donated is used to pay charity workers, aid reaches corrupt governments of third world countries, and foreign aid actually has a negative effect on third world countries. So the first supporting claim I shall refute is that the money goes to charity workers. The speaker claimed that UNICEF only uses 14 cents on the dollar towards what they say about what they're doing to charity. When I researched this, first of all, the exact quote that the speaker used, when I found it, was actually on a page that was describing how that quote has not been found to be cited. And anywhere that you look online, you'll see this quote, but there's nowhere that suggests that this quote has any credibility behind it. There's no citing, there's no evidence to show that this quote actually was true. And then I did some research on Charity Navigator, which is a site that compares charities and allows you to go through and see what charities are doing, how they're spending the money, and which charities really are putting money towards the causes that they're saying they're doing. And Charity Navigator not only says that UNICEF was a charity that was working, UNICEF actually was spending 90.3% of all donations and all earnings towards what they say they're doing, which is 90 cents to the dollar, not 14 cents to the dollar. So therefore, they're still paying their charity workers, but not as much as the previous speaker stated. Second supporting claim, aid reaches corrupt governments. And even though I wasn't able to find any evidence that said that this was directly false, because there are in third world countries some places where the government do take foreign aid and use it to their advantage. Not all of it. There is still money that is going through to the poor. For instance, because even though we don't have full control over what happens to it, we have made sure that some of it has been getting through. We have had over 3 million immunizations. Smallpox has been eliminated. 21,000 families, farm families, have been trained in improved land cultivation, which these statistics are coming from the Borgen Project, which is another charity group that keeps track and helps with foreign aid. And so, yes, some money might be going to corrupt governments, but it's not like it's not reaching the people it's supposed to. We don't have full control, but the money is still getting through to what is intended to go through. Which also leads me to the third point that the advocate was saying, is that foreign aid has a negative effect on third world countries. And as I previously stated, we are helping them. We've eliminated smallpox. And other things that we have done to actually help improve third world countries is that we have increased life expectancy by 33%. 1.3 billion people have received clean drinking water sources. 750 million people are receiving sanitation, receiving sanitation for the first time. So therefore, even though this foreign aid may be reaching corrupt governments, it's not having a negative effect on them. It is having there is more positive effect on these third world countries than negative effects through all the things that we've been doing for them. Therefore, with all this evidence, I hope to disprove the advocate's claim that foreign aid fails to benefit the poor. Thank you.
All right, structurally everything is in pretty good shape. It's easy to follow the signposts. The argument wasn't too complicated. The first argument is basically a challenge of the research that the advocate presented, and it sounds interesting because you went to the advocate's site, and the site that you went to is the site that says, we've been trying to track this information down. So the advocate is quoting a site that has acknowledged that this is not a valid piece of information. I mean, this is pretty damning kind of stuff. And like we said before, like I said on an earlier speech, you want to be sure that you always get it correct. Now, the inference that goes here is either the advocate was negligent and they picked up this information from some other site and didn't double check it, or they were being deceptive and chose this information despite the fact that they knew that it was inaccurate. Either of those things would cause us to have doubts about the way in which the advocate is presenting their case, and that might be something that you would want to mention. I know it sounds like it's a personal attack in this situation, but it's basically saying that the evidence and the way it's being reasoned is entirely unreliable, and this is the one thing I was able to discover about this evidence. Remember, we have other arguments here that we may not go into in as much depth. There could be similar kinds of problems here. All right, I think that's a legitimate challenge to make. On the second point, and then I did, by the way, think that you did a good job following up with the information from the charity navigator, talking about how productive they are. And you're not going to deny that they pay their employees a salary, but you do point out still that's 90% of what they spend goes to the purpose that it's being established for, not just to pay salary. So that's and I don't know what the rate is on most charities, but there might be lots of ways to compare it, for instance, to domestic charities. I would bet that 90% rate is pretty positive in comparison to some domestic charities, maybe the American Cancer Society. All right. The second one, basically you just come back with an argument that says, look, we know that we've had successes in the past with charitable aid, and then you give some generic information about all of the benefits that we've had. That's pretty good. If the advocate mentions specific places, it might be appropriate to talk about the specifics, but if they left it general, then I think it seems fair that you could be speaking in generalities also. And then, the quantification that you have at the end is, again, a little bit generic, but it does talk about this, and you basically make an on-balance argument. I can't deny that some governments are corrupt and they take advantage and they get some of the money, but that doesn't mean that giving the money is a bad idea, because some of the money does get through, and we know that it's had substantial benefits, and here are those benefits that we can see, despite the fact that money sometimes gets into the hands of monsters. All right. Thank you.